Their French foreign minister said this today with all of the, Frenchiness.
Il y a eu mensonge.
There have been lies, there has been duplicity, there has been a major break of trust, there has been contempt. So it's not going well between us, not at all. That means that there is a crisis. And at that point, there's first a symbolic aspect, meaning we're recalling our ambassadors to try to understand, but also to show our former partner countries that we have very strong discontent, really a serious crisis between us. And if they come, it's also a way to re-evaluate our position to defend our interests both in Australia and the United States.
The acting Prime Minister, Barnaby Joyce, has reminded the French about the connections between our two countries that go a long way back.
Australia doesn't need to prove their affinity and their affection and their resolute desire to look after the liberty and the freedom and the equality of France. We have tens of thousands of Australians who have either died on French soil or died protecting French soil from the countries that surround them.
Nicole Flint is the Liberal member for Boothby. Sam Crosby, Labor to his bootstraps, and good to chat to him live from lockdown. Lady and lad, hello. I'll start with you first, Nicole, about the reaction here, where obviously no one wants to insult, but it's fairly obvious that when given an opportunity to forge even closer ties with the United States and the UK, that's obviously what we do when we're the second country in the history that has been able to share the information and access to the particular technology that the UK has had for decades.
Absolutely. This is a huge coup for Australia. It's incredibly important for our national interest. And in terms of the submarine contract with France, like any major contract, there are a number of points along the way when either party can exit the contract. That's what we've done. It should be of no surprise to the French, and I'm sure it actually isn't. What's interesting here, Paul, is that we have a French presidential election in April 2022, and so I think we should just wonder whether there might be a bit of French nationalism and national interest behind the very strong reaction that they've made to the submarines. I think the Deputy Prime Minister put it best, though, when he reminded us all that Australian and French ties go back over 100 years, and there is a lot of Aussie blood spilt on French soil, and many Aussie soldiers who ended up there after World War I and World War II. And so I'm sure that we will continue to be friends in due course.
Yeah, and Sam, to Nicole's point, they didn't pull the ambassadors from the UK. They kept the ambassadors in the UK, who are just as much a part of the arrangement as the United States or Australia.
Yeah, it is hard to feel sorry for the French in this case, I've got to say. It wasn't too long ago, it was in our lifetime, Paul, that the French were conducting nuclear tests in the South Pacific.
Exactly.
So, they were blowing up Greenpeace boats in New Zealand. Let's just keep it in a little bit of context with the French. I mean, look, we do have a strategic and a financial interest. The European foreign ministers are meeting almost as we speak tonight on the sidelines of their summit to discuss the impact of this. We do have trade agreements pending. We do need to make sure that over time the relationship is repaired. But, I'm not in any way worried about deepening and furthering our relationship with either the UK or the USA.
Yeah, I'm with you completely. Well said. Dantine is the Trade Minister. Here's what he had to say, because there's some belief that the French will use their leadership of the EU to go after Australia and try to scuttle things like free trade deals or put tariffs on us because we still sell coal.
Well, I think we've made it clear that we understand France's disappointment with this decision. So I think we've got to be absolutely clear in expressing the view that we understand why France is disappointed in this decision. But we also will be very clear that ultimately in the end we've taken a decision which is in our national sovereign interests, and very much in the same way that France makes decisions that are in its national sovereign interests.